guys.
Hello.
Nice.
Look at that. We already got one word out of Andy. Hope everybody is doing lovely on this Friday. You know, it was raining a minute ago, but it's not anymore. I was ready for a whole mid-morning afternoon of lovely spring rain. I don't know what else to call it besides spring rain. Afternoon showers. In any case, you guys always like to hear about the weather, I'm sure. We've got Andy in here. We are doing our part 2 on our class 26, going over anything and everything you guys need to know. So where we left off on Wednesday with Ryan was kind of at winding a bobbin, and then we're going to get into the motor part. So we went through most of the head stuff. So if you have any threading, needle, thread size, bobbin stuff, reverse and stitch length stuff, you're going to want to go back to Wednesday. Andy's going to kind of take it from here. Once again, we're going to wind a bobbin, and then we're going to go over some motor things and then kind of general maintenance. And yeah, right?
Yep.
I think that sounds about right.
Yep.
Oh, and different feet options. I think Andy grabbed some welting feet. We're going to show you how to do a cord.
Yep.
Because we're cool like that. So, all right, Andy, let's take it away with some bobbins.
Okay, bobbins.
Once again, this machine uses a Class U bobbin. There's a bobbin that goes in, and it's a pretty high capacity bobbin.
Yeah.
This is pretty good. Yeah, okay.
I would call it almost double the size of like a normal bobbin.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to switch to this side camera here. All right. Winding a bobbin with your bobbin winder. Take your top thread. You go through this little eye here. Go through the eye. And then I like to go around the back and under. Now technically that's all you have to do. Sometimes people have problems with, it's when these get wore out. You go back through here if you want to. Now there's no way for it to ever pop out of your tensioner spring. So we go from there over to this other side. Depending on how big a thread, 90% of the time this little trick will work. Take your bobbin, go inside to outside, like that. Get a little bit extra, put that through the center. Now, see that groove? Make sure your thread does not line up with that groove, otherwise it won't grab it.
You're just tensioning her on the side.
Yep.
Okay.
Like that. And then you can trim this tail off, and now you don't have to hold it. Now it will hold itself. Push this forward. And I'll just wind a little bit. And if they didn't go over this, while you're winding a bobbin and you're not sewing, make sure any thread that's left in your bobbin on the machine, take it out.
Just take out the whole bobbin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might as well. Better safe than sorry.
That's right, because you're
And then take your thread out of your needle. I usually take it all the way up to the take-up arm so it's not just flailing about.
All right, so that's just, hold on. So we're going to wind a bobbin, and this is winding a bobbin while not sewing.
Yeah.
This machine runs off the same belt, or the bobbin winder runs off the same belt as your machine does. So if you want to wind a bobbin, which is why you have the 2-spool thread arm, so if you want to wind a bobbin while you're sewing, that's perfectly great. You just keep sewing. You're gonna do what Andy just did. What is that? What do you just what's that mechanism?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you do that, and then you can just sew. But if you aren't sewing while you're winding a bobbin, remove the bobbin out of your machine from the cylinder arm, and then take the thread out of the needle all the way out to the take-up arm, because otherwise, like we talked about on Wednesday, you're going to get a whole rat's nest up inside that if you're not holding on to the threads the whole time, and it can cause you a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So.
Because even if there's not material, it's going to still pretend that there is material, and so.
Yeah, because the other side's because you're just running the machine.
Yeah.
All right, now you can go.
All right. I'm not going to wind full bobbin, but just enough. Just enough to hold the thread. So once this machine gets full, it fills up this bobbin and hits this little tension spring right here, and it will automatically
Disengage.
Disengage.
Engage. That was the word I was looking for. You're going to engage the bobbin winder.
All right. From there, you pull this off of there. You might have to twist a little bit. And most important part, there's a little tail that sticks out here. Believe it or not, that will get caught and stuff. So make sure you trim that off. Just like that. Trim that off.
Now you have a bobbin.
One other thing to make sure, you're going to still have your tail over here unless you're using the same bobbin that you're sewing with, or bolt to thread, whatever you want to call it. Make sure this doesn't go down in there, because this will grab and wind over your pulley until it's so full that it pops your belt off. I have seen somebody do that before.
Was this somebody named Andy?
It was not me.
No.
All right. That's winding a bobbin. Where do we want to go from here?
Well, let's just talk about motors.
Okay, motors.
So we need, let's hear. So on Wednesday, somebody had a question. Their motor was stuck in reverse. But let's just talk about how does this motor function? What's the functionalities of it? You will get a handy little guide sheet with the machine.
Yep.
Now these motors are a newer version than what came on the machine. How many years ago have they switched?
Maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody now gets an EPS motor. You just may not have the EPS set up.
Correct.
And let's maybe talk about what the EPS is.
So the EPS is electronic position system. Most of the time I don't recommend it because it will continue the needle to where you have it set. So let's say it was on there, because it mounts right here and just plugs into extra ports on your control box. You can have it set to whenever you let off the foot, it will automatically go all the way down if you have it set to all the way down or all the way up. It will continue after you let your foot off. That's the main reason I don't like it, because if I let my foot off, I want it to stop right where it's at.
You're like, I have a reason for stopping it here.
Now, if you're doing lots of production work, like if you're doing belts all day.
Yeah, if you're
That
doing
would be
lots of
great.
one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can get it set to where it will automatically, if you're doing lots of corners, it will always, almost all the way back out of your material. And then you can easily turn without it skipping a stitch. Anything like that.
So all of our machines from Cobra, you can get with an EPS or just standard.
Yeah.
And it used to be two different motors in that situation. So you had just like the standard servo motor that you would get, or if you bought the EPS package, then you would get this motor with the attachment that controlled the flywheel.
Yeah.
But now Cobra has moved to, they all have this, is it like a digital instead of a analog motor? Is that?
They were
I don't
still
know.
technically, because they had a little readout on it.
Okay. It's just they've all gone to this motor now. So if you have an older version, this may not be 100% applicable to what you're doing, but we're going with like the newest version. That way, anybody that's getting it from here on out, this will be how you function. So let's just how do you work the motor? Let's get our machine turned around here so you can see it. And I guess maybe we'll talk about. So the great thing about the machines from Cobra is they come with servo motors and speed reducers, which we really have not talked about yet. The servo motor speed reducer combination allows you to drive this like a car. So the harder you push on the pedal, the faster the machine goes. If you want to go slowly, you can lightly push on the pedal and the machine will move slower. You can also set this motor to only go up to a certain speed, so no matter how hard you push on the pedal, you're never going to go over how many ever, miles per hour you feel like sewing, like whatever your comfort level is. Yeah?
Yep.
And what that also does, for any of you that have any like industrial sewing machine experience, a lot of times like people will talk about industrial sewing machines, like as soon as you push on the pedal, it's 0 to 100 and it's going to fly. It's going to fly on you.
Yeah.
Like you need to know where you're going. You need to be really familiar with that machine. Because a lot of times like without the speed reducer, you don't get the amount of torque that you need to push all the way through heavy weight or, like leather specifically where you have to cut through it at a slow speed. It'll go, and it won't want to push through.
It'll either break the needle or the belt will slip.
Yeah. And so the speed reducer increases that torque at slow speed so that you can still puncture and sew at a snail's pace if you choose to sew that slow.
You don't have to start it like this and then press the pedal.
Right. And so that's why the servo motor speed reducer combination is really, really good for a more novice sewer or people that just do different projects all the time. That way you don't have to, it's much more user-friendly than your old industrial machines.
Yeah, those old motors were called a clutch motor. Yeah. Because they would be set to 3,500 RPM, and as soon as you press that pedal, it would engage that clutch, and then you're off to the races.
Do you want to talk about, before we get into this, running wax thread through a sewing machine?
So...
Foxy says she's asking for a friend.
You can run wax thread through the machine. Not recommended because it will gum stuff up.
Yeah.
I have run wax thread through this.
Which one?
As long as it's relatively round, so they call rhino or tiger thread flat thread, but in my opinion, it's a tube, so it's technically round.
It could be round.
Yeah. You don't want to use like the super heavy waxed, like the economy nylon threads that are almost like a synthetic sinew type stuff.
It's too big.
It's too big and way too waxy. Like, if you can pinch it and peel off wax, it's too waxy.
It's not recommended, Foxy. Yeah. It's just not recommended.
Yeah.
All right, motors.
On this machine, the only buttons that you need to worry about, unless you have the EPS, are just these two.
Up and down.
The positive and negative. So we keep ours set to 4,500 RPM. That's as fast as it'll go. Because, like she was saying, it's just like a car, the lowest amount that you press on the pedal, you're only going to go a certain speed. And the more you press, the faster you go. Now, if you're a beginner and you want to set it really, really slow.
Because, like, the pedal, there's not a ton of movement in the pedal. So, like a super light foot or if you have a heavier foot, it might be harder to go slower if you have it at full speed. Yeah. Okay.
So... it will go down to 100 RPM, that's as fast as it'll go. My foot's all the way down.
That's slow.
You can kind of see the belt moving down here.
So if you're real scarred, you can start there.
Yeah. Turn that all the way back up. Now I would have to look at the manual to tell you which buttons are which on the EPS, and it also for if your machine's in reverse, you should have a copy of that. If not, you can email me, Andy at Springfield Leather, and I'll get you a copy.
Okay. If you don't have this little sheet, or if you lost yours and you need a new one, let us know.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about doing reverse? Can you set the machine in reverse? You said sometimes the motors come in reverse.
Yes, I would have to have.
Oh,
that
here you go. Sorry.
So let's see here. Maximum is, well, see if this. There
Oh,
we go.
look at that.
Okay, that works.
So, where are we at here? Load parameters.
Direction of rotation.
Yeah, right there. So,
Somewhere else. Here. Just stand up.
what?
That's all right.
You stand up and I'll get behind
It
you.
was good enough.
Okay.
So, direction of rotation. see red dot, corner of the display,
So red dot.
which it is not currently in reverse, so you do not see a little red dot. Little red dot.
Okay.
Says, if so, hold the S button until the dot goes out. Or, in this case, turn it back on.
So now we are in reverse.
Yep. It's as simple as that. Hold that. There you go.
Are there any applications where you think of like when one might want to sew in reverse all the time?
I can't think of any reason. Now, the only time I've ever seen something sew in reverse, it was on a shoemaker, and it was a cylinder arm, but I think they only had a certain foot. So if your material's sticking out to the left-hand side, you could have it the opposite.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you could sew backwards. It looked really weird because they were standing behind the machine. Yeah.
Ryan was doing that last week, or like on Wednesday. That was pretty funny. All right, so that's as easy. That's how you. Now, does the machine need to be set up any specific way when you mess with the motor and the settings?
It shouldn't need to be set up any particular way.
All right, you don't need to have like the needle in the upright position or anything weird.
No.
Okay. Real fast, do you want to go over maybe changing some tensions?
Okay.
And we'll talk about altering your tension a little bit, because we did not get a chance to show a really good example of where the knot. Oh, maybe, okay, so as you get set up, so how a sewing machine works is you have a top thread and a bottom thread, right? So it's different from hand sewing where you have one continuous thread and you are literally exchanging sides through a hole, and then you come back around, and your top thread now becomes your bottom, and your bottom becomes the top, and then you weave back and forth, right? This is two different threads, and as we talked about on Wednesday, as the shuttle and hook mechanism work together, they are looping those threads together. So you're making loops, which is why when you cut a thread in the stitch of your shirt, you can pull it all the way out, because you've got loops, and so once you cut one of those, the top side can just unravel, or the bottom side, or both sides are just going to unravel until, I don't know, forever. They'll unravel forever. Leather, they can actually hold pretty well because a lot of times it's thick. The leather will kind of close back up on itself a little bit. Like after you finish sewing, it's good practice to kind of hammer down that stitch a little bit to kind of compact those holes back together, tighten everything up to where if you do cut it, you might only lose like 2 or 3 holes, and you can kind of re-sew back over that section. And so what that means is whenever you are prepping your material with your needle and thread size and all the combinations that we talked about last week, you have to be cognizant of where that loop is landing inside the leather. And so you don't want that loop on the very bottom, you don't want it on the top, you want it as centered as possible, which is why you want to change the thread thickness for the leather thickness. If you're doing wallet interiors and you're sewing, 1 to 2 ounce leather, maybe 2 layers, like 69 is about the most that you want to sew, maybe even having a 46 in the bobbin, because you don't have a lot of room in the middle of your leather for that knot to hide. But the thicker your leather, the more room you have for that knot to be, and then you adjust the tension is where that knot is going to be landing. So
And depending on if you're ever going to see that backside or not, like on thin materials, if it's on the inside of a pocket, you can put that knot on the backside.
Sure.
If you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because then you're never going to see it, and you shouldn't have a lot of wear.
Yeah. I do hand sew all my knife sheaths. I tried a sewing machine, and I had to call all these fellas for like 4 nights in a row, and then I ended up hand sewing them anyways.
Yeah. She didn't do a demo.
I didn't. I can tell you how to take that bobbin, go the whole thing out, and try to get that thread out like Rusty talked about. And it's real terrible, and I just wanted to cry for like
Alright.
5 hours.
Well, I'll show the 2 tension spots.
Does it need to be down like in there?
Well, there's one that's down here.
Please hold. I might have to get taller again. Please
You can
hold.
just hold it temporarily.
Actually, you're 100%.
You gonna try that?
right.
You want me
Yeah, just go press 2.
All right. Tell me when you're ready.
Oh, that's very blue, Andy.
I pushed 2.
Well,
Okay,
I
that's
can
fine.
I can do that, and you can't see it.
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
All right, everybody, hold on.
So, once you get your machine, that would be the only time I would recommend adjusting your bobbin tension, if you want more or less. But if you're adjusting it, it's this little screw, the first one. This back one, do not adjust that, because that will just make it fall off. So this one, quarter turns is more than plenty. So 10, 15 stitches, if you want more or less, adjust it from there.
Do you really suggest that people touch that very often, like
No,
at all?
only touch your top tension.
Yeah.
But if you want overall, more tension or less tension, adjust it down here from the start.
A quarter turn.
Yeah, yeah.
At the most.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We good in there? Now we're gonna go
We
back.
go up to the top. Well, we can show the. Well, you can get the camera set up, or
Do you want to go back to the? I put it back on 1.
Yeah, I'm good now. You're good.
All right. So, I don't use this one as tension. Some people do. Technically, it is a tension, but I always use this one. This is your main tension spring. So, if you're ever needing to adjust your knot, righty-tighty or clockwise, that brings the knot towards the top. Lefty-loosey brings it down. Fairly simple.
Okay. And
Now-
how much do you turn that at a time?
So, when you're adjusting tension, if you set your tension on really thin material, you should be fine on thicker material. But if you're always sewing thick material and you go to thinner material, you might have to do, a turn and a half. Just really depends. So I'm just gonna do a little test piece here. We'll see where we're at tension wise. Don't need the screwdriver. So you can ever so slightly see white. So that means you are very close to the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go ahead and loosen it even more, which there's less tension on the top, so the bottom is going to want to pull it down. And always hold on to your threads for the first couple stitches. See, I only turned it like half a turn. You can't see it hardly any more than the previous,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Yeah.
can start to see them. So another way you can test your tension, because there's always going to be, I call it tear out on the back, because that's where it's puncturing. Turn your scrap piece upside down, so then your finished side, without all the fuzzies. See, now you can really see it. Like little knots sticking up there.
And I do feel like a lot of times on your first stitch or two is where the tension
Yes, yeah.
is going to be the most obvious.
Even when you're holding on to it.
Yeah. And you can kind of tug. How about let's do a stitch line where you reverse on both ends.
Okay.
And then kind of show them how you finish up that stitch line.
I should have wound some more red. Got this piece off. All right.
Why do we hold a thread when starting a stitch? Tension.
It will pull this out and be super loose, or it's going to pull the top down into here and make a nest.
Yeah.
Do we have wing dividers in here? Alright, so this is a trick that I like doing because I like things to be right. Not to say that I'm right, but that's just the way I like doing it. So, once you've done a scrap piece, however many back stitches you want, measure that with your wing dividers. So, if you're starting on wallets or something, and you know you want to be a certain distance from the edge, you kind of eyeball it, and then put a little dot. Just enough that you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. So,
All right, so say you're sewing the top of a pocket.
Yep.
And you want to be so far in, right, you know where your side stitch is going to be,
Yep.
and you're sewing the top.
Yep.
So you're going to put your wing dividers, you're going to, once again, like we talked about Wednesday, you always want to sew on a sample first before you do your own project, and make sure that all the tension and everything is happy and your stitch length is where you want it. We want to do same thickness, same material. You want to do as similar to what you're about to sew as possible.
Yep.
And then, all right, that's actually a really good. So then you sew a couple stitches and you measure it,
Yep.
and then you know how far instead of just eyeballing.
And I don't know if they went over it, but always make sure your thread's inside that foot so you're not pulling on the needle.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you're pulling on the needle,
That's
you're
not
going to break
good.
something.
Yeah.
So from there, you probably can't see the...
And we're about to lose our top thread
Yep.
because we're not holding on to it, and your arm is just super in the way.
Yep. I know. So I'm placing my needle right where that dot was. So now I can hold onto the threads one way or another. And now I'm going to press the reverse button.
Once again, we want to press that reverse bar all the way down.
Yep.
Completely repress it, because otherwise your stitch lengths are not going to match.
All right. So there's a couple different ways depending on what you're doing. So you can see a little knot there. You can pull the front to where it's even, just like that. Pull a little more maybe. Cut and trim. Or if you like, all of your little burned threads, do that.
To
Pull
be
both
on
of
the
them to back.
inside.
Yeah. And then you can melt them off with the
Thread zapper.
thread zapper. These are dull. Or I call it melting threads because you don't want to burn the threads, it discolors them. So just get it close and they'll slowly start melting. And they're not going to be black. You can't even tell on camera.
Perfect.
If you can't pull it very easy, just get some really smooth needle nose, grab that, and just ever so slightly twist, and it will pull that knot wherever you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where's that?
All right, let's talk about some accessories. So, whoop. You good?
Yeah, you can go to one if you want. I'm just putting them back on the tripod. Sorry, guys.
See if we can get it like there-ish.
You want me to go back to that though?
Did you guys go over edge guides?
We did not. Let's talk about guiding your edge.
All right. your machine, if you get it from us, will come with a drop-down edge guide, which is very nice. Very, very easy to adjust. This is how far from the edge you want. It's hard to tell on there, but you just turn this. If you're doing a lot of the same thing and you don't want it to move, because they can move, tighten this, and this will not adjust anymore. Yeah. When you're setting it up, it's all personal preference. I like my needle to be all the way down, and then wherever this is at, I want the center of your roller guide or your foot. Yeah, you can't really.
All right.
So the furthest out point, which would be the center of that roller, this roller, I want that to be straight in line with the needle, because then when you're turning corners, round corners, that needle's going to be right in line with that, and it's not going to try and jump off weird, because I don't know how to explain that. Because if your corner's back here and you're sewing here, but this guide is like way up front, it's
Oh, gotcha.
It's not going to turn right.
Because you can change where the position.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The distance right here. How far it sticks out. The only time you might want to readjust that is if you're always sewing something really thick, and that's another thing I'm going to show you. There's a grub screw just right here out of screen. Let's see if you can.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, right there.
I'm on a trip.
Whee!
It's very dark.
All right.
So, okay.
So there's that little screw.
Yep. Once he gets that back in place.
There you go.
You can, my hand's going to be in the way for a second, raise and lower this. So, let's say you have two pieces of leather, like a pocket and a back panel. You can raise this. Let's get this out of the way. Get the needle out of the way. You can raise this. See, it still doesn't fit. Adjust that up a little bit more. Raise it until it's not going to end up marring your leather up. A little tight there.
If you need to get over your leather
Yep.
into where you're going to like place your pocket.
So the benefit to that, I'll readjust this a little bit, close that gap. So when it's like that, you can get in here like this, still have a straight edge guide, and
It's so bright. There you go. That's way better.
and still use a straight edge guide.
Andy, for how many stitches about do you hold the thread before you feel comfortable enough letting go?
At least two.
At least two, yeah. If not, maybe 3 to 5.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, if you're hand finishing the ends, like I did on the Anderson satchel video, it doesn't matter as much because you'll go back through and adjust your tension and
Right.
do that. But
Yeah, thread is relatively cheap, so like you don't have to be stingy with how much thread you have coming out of the needle and the bobbin.
yeah, I
You know,
always
you
like,
always want a good handful to start with.
and I always like a long tail, anyways. Like this is almost too short.
Yeah.
Because depending on what hand you like holding, you can have it all the way out here on the outside
Yeah.
of your material, or
Or just how big your project is. Sometimes in order to get a hold on it,
Yeah.
you really need to have quite a
you
bit
can
of thread.
have it way back here.
Yeah.
Just really depends.
Let's hear. So let's talk about maybe how these pedals are set up.
Okay.
So you've got the gas pedal and then your knee lift or your foot lift.
Yep.
This are there adjustments there that you can make? If I don't know, are there? What do you
Yes. Yeah.
pedals? These pedals.
All right. Just like driving a car, except opposite. You know, driving a car in the aspect of just use 1 foot, because if you're using 2 feet and you're messing around up by the needle and you accidentally bump this, it doesn't care. It's gonna sew right through your finger.
Yep.
So just 1 foot. This is your foot lift. This is not your go pedal. This is your gas pedal. And this one, I like to have it as tight as possible. Like there's a little bit of give there, but because it has quite a bit of travel.
Yeah, because that foot lifts up like what, an inch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your go pedal, I have the machine turned off right now. Like that's all it moves, maybe 3/4 of an inch, not very much.
And so that's moving this right here, if you guys can't see it. So this whole bracket is connected here. Are there adjustments that one could make here if they needed to?
Yes. So I like to have this pedal almost flat, because if it's angled up really high, you're gonna get some shin splints, just your foot resting on there.
Yeah.
Have it flat, makes it easy. So from there, you shouldn't ever need to adjust from here, but you can adjust the angle from here. But where you really want to adjust is just out of frame, right here. So this is the angle. If you loosen this and close it, that will make the angle of your pedal go up, because it connects to your motor up here. Not that you need to see that. But this is the easiest to adjust. Down here, there's several Allens, and I'd suggest not messing with that.
There you go.
Now, if you ever, press your pedal down and it just goes all the way, you can check those, make sure those are tight. From there, that's really all the adjustment down there.
All right, I think we talked about starting and stopping. I guess what we didn't kind of discuss, you did dead end stops where you have back stitches on both sides.
Yep.
But if you're going around in a circle or a square or whatever and you're catching
Yep.
the whole thing, you don't need to back stitch when you start. You'll just stitch over it when you end. So.
If there's enough bobbin on here.
Stupid bobbins, always running out.
Well,
Always make sure before you start sewing that you look at your bobbin, and if you're like questioning it, just wind a new one. Just take all the thread that's there, take it off, and then just wind a new one, because nothing is more frustrating than sewing like 3 stitches in a project and then realizing that like 5 inches ago you ran out of thread.
And if they also didn't go over it, whenever you lift your foot, it also separates your tension spring. So if you're ever trying to pull thread and it's really tight, lift your foot. Really easy.
I'm gonna say most of the time if you're trying to pull thread, you probably need to release the tension.
Yeah. And also, whenever you're getting your bobbin thread up, hold on to this, not tight, just so it doesn't take the end down in there. Just enough. And then if you're not comfortable grabbing with your fingers, take scissors, whatever, just grab that loop, pull that out of there.
If you don't hold on to that top one, or which one? The bobbin.
If you don't hold on to the top one.
If you don't hold on to the top, you just always hold your thread.
Yeah.
Because
So
you could
I'll
get
just-
a little rat's
I'll-
nest.
Yeah, I'll just
okay.
demonstrate. So I cut it, most people would probably have that length. So if you go, it keeps getting shorter, shorter, shorter. Oh, there it goes.
Now you have no thread.
Yeah.
It's not going to complete. You're not going to make your loop to pull it out to where you get everything's all happy. Hold on to your thread.
All right.
So that's like tip number 1. Make yourself a magnet that goes on your machine that says, hold on to my thread.
Yep.
Kevin, probably not a sale on the Class 26 machines, especially right now.
That doesn't matter.
Are you on?
I just turned it on. So where are we at? So one thing you can do if you don't want to see your stitches on top midway through, just pull that to the back. Just like that.
All the way out.
And then once you get close to the end, you can either hand place the gap if you don't think it's going to be perfectly fine, which I don't think it's going to be the exact distance. So right before that needle's in there, I'm just going to kind of pull that out, place it right where I think it needs to be, and right back into that first stitch. So from there, you can let it down and then just how many stitches you want.
All right, so let's talk about troubleshooting when you have weird stitches. So like just in that coaster, you've got one where the knot's kind of on top. But what are some things that if people have skipped stitches or inconsistent stitches, what are some troubleshooting methods that you like?
So white, obviously on a dark material, you can see the knots. Something else you can do once you're done sewing, even though you can see the knots, you can take a smooth-faced hammer. I'm just going to do this on part of it. It doesn't matter whichever one you want to go to. So I hammered down this part right here, which also makes this lay more flat. It does, so you can't hardly see the knots at all, and then over here you can. It just closes that leather back around the knot.
And I guess also the more timid you are in your sewing, the more likely that you're gonna have stitch issues.
Yeah.
Because if you're starting and stopping really frequently, the machine doesn't really like that.
Yeah.
If you're not starting and stopping with the stitch completed, that can cause a lot of issues, and especially like skipping stitches. So like if you're going around a corner and you're not making sure that the needle is going all the way into the leather and then starting to come back out, but not yet exited the leather, when that needle goes down and then begins to come back out, that's when that loop is created.
Yeah.
And so if that is not completed and you kick the foot up so you can rotate your thing, and then you start sewing again, it's not gonna make that stitch, and you're gonna have a skip stitch on your corner.
Yeah. So I'll just do it. A little demonstration of that.
Andy will show you how that's done.
So I'll just rotate just a little more. There, you can see the needle now.
Okay.
All right. So since you really only run into this generally on like a square corner, because your edge guide, you're going to have to lift your foot to be able to turn it. Otherwise, it's just going to bunch your leather up. So we'll get it close. So it's down. Technically, you could turn it. So you could lift your foot and turn your leather if you want. But you want your needle to be down all the way and almost all the way back out. That means it's grab that thread and created a loop. So from there, then you can lift your foot and rotate. That's the biggest skip stitch, is corners. Well, I forgot what I was going to say. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Did you have a secondary?
So if you're ever lifting your foot to readjust something, make sure your foot is all the way back down before you start doing something, because you are messing with the tension up here if you start playing around with it.
ideally, if you're, for me, if I'm gonna lift with a foot, I wanna make sure that needle is still slightly in the leather. Everything is kind of held, when that needle is in your leather, it's holding everything in the right spot, but only when it's on the down and coming back up, because then your stitch is completed. If you try to rotate something, sometimes you can rotate that knot out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one other thing, I don't know if they went over. See, this isn't coming undone. So on these,
Yeah, you can see all those threads underneath.
Machine's sliding around here. Lock the feet. So beginners run into that a lot. They're like, I can't get my material out of there. You need to make sure that needle is all the way back up, and then just barely on its way back down.
Yeah.
And then it's fully completed that stitch and it comes undone.
Yep. Because then that bobbin has to finish its rotation.
Yep.
Yeah, so just like Andy, you had 2 threads at that point coming up out of the bottom.
Yep. It still had the top thread looped down in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's also not happy. So everything that you do needs to either be at the bottom and coming back up where that stitch is completed, or the knot is completed, or at the top coming back down, because then that is your full stitch. Completed. What's up, Christina's Leather Party of 21? We're talking about sewing machines. Welcome to the show.
This is more or less a trick. Get my arm out of the way. So, if you want to reinforce the top seam, I did this on the Anderson satchel. I don't remember which video it was, but say you want thread to go over this.
Mm-hmm.
Place that needle. My arm's going to be in the way for a second. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. So place that needle where you want your stitch to be, and then just go forward 1 stitch, because then you can kind of let go of your threads here. Hand place back in that first hole, because your foot's going to slide off. So now my needle is, you can't see it.
Totally behind the leather. We are totally behind the leather. We are not going through leather.
So once you place that, make sure your foot's back down, just so it has tension on there. And then as it's almost back down, place that needle right back where you wanted it. And then you can continue from there.
So he did like a manual, I'm gonna call that, like a lock stitch on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can do that midway down stitching something, and if there's a pocket here or something, you can do that and back, and then continue your stitch line. But now, it's reinforced up there. It's not going to flap around. That's one little thing.
And I will just, I guess, point out that when you're sewing with a sewing machine, you're way more likely to have a few inconsistent stitches here or there. There's some different things. The more familiar you are with the machine, making sure you're getting it set up before you start sewing your project, the less those issues will be present. But with machine sewing, you are trading. It's a trade-off with hand sewing. Like, hand sewing takes forever. You're spending a lot of time doing everything manually. With a sewing machine, you can work literally probably 100 times faster than hand sewing. But there are just different issues that you will have to deal with a machine versus hand sewing. But your productivity will be increased exponentially. Compared to just having to hand sew all of your products. So just be aware of that. There are a lot of, I know the first time I tried to sew a knife sheath, I was at the top max, like I was using a class 3. I had, it was the weirdest knife sheath I'd ever made. There was a knife on the front, and then there was like a saw on the back that he wanted attached. So I had like these 2 welt situations coming together, and there was one point where it was like an inch thick, which is pretty much maxing out a 3 or a 4.
Yep.
And I blasted through the side of that thing because my welt thickness really was not wide, or my welt width was not wide enough for the machine to manage that.
Yeah.
And
if you're doing something like that, have extra, sew it, and then go back
and trim it. Yeah. So as you,
Because there's going to be a little deflection because you're trying to hold the material over here, and as you're holding it, you might ever so slightly hold it up like this, and then it's going to...
yeah, or if your seam isn't wide enough, you can fall into that hole. And especially the Class 26 is smaller and more compact with the feed dog channel. But your 3 and your 4, they're more aggressive. It's a bigger machine. It's bigger parts.
Yeah.
And so you really need to have that extra width as you're working on your seam allowance with a machine than what you could maybe get away with hand sewing. The old buy once, cry once, and then smile buying a machine. Yeah. They are pretty amazing. All right, any maintenance-y tips that you want to give these folks?
Other than your general oiling, there are a few places you can oil under here. It's not necessary because the oil wicks do get in there, but...
I'm going to say this on this one, just like I said on last one. On the back side of this machine, where all your foot mechanisms come together, there are wicks that are wrapped around the metal parts. Don't cut those off. They literally put stickers on it now because people cut those off.
There's a sticker.
There's a sticker. Yeah. So there are wicks wrapped around all of this metal stuff to keep it all oiled. And then there's little red dots everywhere. And that's where you oil. And that wick moves it all around and makes sure all those parts, this machine needs, it's a well-oiled machine. Metal likes to be oiled. And also I will say that once you go through an oiling session, run some leather that you don't care about through the machine because some of that extra oil will come off and you'll have a little bit of excess in your leather. So if you're sewing like natural veg, it's going to get oil on it, which is probably not what you want. So sew through some scrap stuff, but make sure you oil it on a regular basis. Don't cut those wicks off, for God's sakes.
And then there's one down here
In the bobbin.
your bobbin.
Yeah. So keep her oiled. Keep dust and lint out of the bobbin case as much as possible. So do you ever blow that out with air, or do you prefer to not?
I do
Okay.
air, and then also I have just a little brush that'll go in there and get all the little fuzzies. Whenever I'm doing that, I'm just going to shut the machine off because you're messing right here. You can take, there's 2 little covers. Here, I'll just spin this around some more. So depending on how much you guys sew on this, I do this maybe once a month. There's 2 screws right here. Take this top piece off, and then these 2 down here. It's not gonna hurt anything. The only time that something might be a little weird, I'll show you. It's just because people don't put it back on right. And these screws are different lengths, so it's easy not to mess them up. So, those come undone. So, well, can't really see. On your bobbin case, there's this little nub right here that I'm touching. See it spinning around? There is a notch right here. So whenever you're putting this back on, just make sure that that nub is inside this notch, because then this doesn't just free spool, because it will only have just a little bit of movement.
It rocks back and forth a little bit.
Yeah. So from there, that's the only thing you really have to worry about. Otherwise, these covers are not holding anything in. They're just dust covers.
I'm already starting to have PTSD from all the times I had to take all this off.
So you can dust and brush all of this stuff off. Oil. You shouldn't have to oil it, but it never hurts. There's little pinholes. They're almost impossible to see because it's black. Just like that. Any place that moves or rotates, just put a drop of oil on it. It's not going to hurt anything.
You said you do that about once a month?
Yep.
And you sew, I mean, you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you do hair on stuff, or for some reason black thread just likes to not necessarily fray, but it's got more.
Be linty.
Yeah, more particles in there. It gets pretty gummy.
Or, you know, if you have 4 dogs at home.
That's something else that could be said, is remember, Andy does this every day. Because coming from somebody that tried to sew something, it's not as easy as you would think. So,
I definitely, if you have not had a machine before and you buy, it
See,
doesn't matter, any machine.
All that schmutz.
Yeah. All that schmutz.
I just feel like that applies to like a lot of stuff that we do in here. Is I think sometimes people see it, they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy," and then they start trying it. They're like, "I must be doing something wrong." It's like, no,
You just need to
gotta
do it.
do
There
it
you go.
right on.
That's what
See,
you want.
it's in there. Just a little bit of movement.
Yeah, sit down with all, I think with most of our machines, we send an ugly bundle.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you buy a machine through Springfield Leather, we send you one of our ugly bundles of leather. Because we know that you're gonna waste some leather sewing on your machine. And so take that, cut it up into different thicknesses, like play around with that. Like just get familiar with the machine, get familiar like what speed you're comfortable sewing at. So, you know, set it low, work your way up. And then, you know, if you decide that 4,500 is not where you want to sew ever, then like place the motor at whatever speed you feel comfortable with once you're pushing all the way down. Just sew on it a lot before you start sewing your regular leather projects if you have never sewn before. You know, maybe spend like a week or two, like really getting to know her. Just sit down with it every night, grab a couple pieces of leather, put them together, try some with glue, try some with basting tape. You know, this is one of those situations where whenever you're gluing up your stuff, which is what we talked about, you want to have as minimal glue as possible so that you're not gumming up the needle. And
Or allow it to dry.
oh yeah, and allow it to dry. Once again, and if you have your glue too thick, and that middle layer is never going to dry because the top is cured and the bottom is cured and the middle is forever wet, that's going to gum up your needle as you sew. So
Well, not to mention gum up the needle. Generally, you can tell because there's like a blob on the needle.
Yeah.
Like where it doesn't go through the leather, but if it's not dry glue, it's gonna grab the thread and mess with your tension.
it's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
Are you sewing your 4 dogs in the machine? I don't know. They're just there, and then they just like shake right next to your machine, and then there's hair everywhere. All right. Let's see here. It is getting to noon. There were somebody asked about the different presser foot options.
Okay. Right now, the machine, it comes with a. I can move this around. The machine comes with a left foot and then I call it the center foot. You can also buy, I would have to check to see if we have them, a right foot only, and then there are double feet that you can get. There are also
Welting feet.
welting feet. Welting or cording feet, whichever you want to call it. So that's your outside foot and then your inside foot. Do we want to show this or do we want to do something else?
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like we're kind of getting to time here, and we could probably go for like another half an hour if we're gonna talk about feet. But yeah, so there are different feet options.
Yeah,
It only comes with the left foot, or yeah, the right
Correct.
foot.
Yeah.
Is that the right foot?
The left foot.
Is it you facing the machine? Left
Yes,
foot.
yeah.
Okay.
So the only reason you would want a different foot, so I'm not going to sew or anything, but if your material is always going to be on this side, this foot is always contacting the leather. But if you're sewing, let's see, like a seam like this, and you want to sew right along that edge and be, really tight, it's going to mess with your stitch length because your foot is not grabbing the leather.
Mm-hmm.
Just the center is. So you could either have the double foot and you're always going to have it either way, or you can swap out and do a right foot. It's just personal preference.
Yeah, and the feet are really easy. There's just that screw on the side. There's a shaft that they screw onto. It's pretty straightforward. Changing them out. So, all right. Any other tips that you want to share today, Andy?
I think that's about it.
What's that screwy thing on the top?
This?
Mm-hmm.
This is your foot pressure. So
we haven't talked about that at all.
If you're sewing, the only time it really matters is if you're sewing a vegetable hand or a bridle, and your foot is making really deep marks, really deep impressions.
That thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this thing. So, I don't know if you can ever so slightly see some lines.
Yeah.
But granted, this is really soft, oily leather.
And that can hammer right out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes away. But if you're doing bridles or something like that, and it will leave indentions depending on how tight you have it. On all of our machines, this is backed out almost all the way. Never.
How do you adjust that?
So there's a locking collar right here. So you can't ever adjust it in or out, and then you just tighten or loosen this.
Okay.
And then you tighten that back down.
Wherever you want to set.
Yeah.
So we back them all the way out.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the shop. I think they're in a little bit more than that.
When you receive it?
Yep.
All right.
It also makes it easier to lift your foot. You can't, see it, but.
Gotcha. All right. I think that was the last thing maybe that we did not go over yet. So, and then once again, customize your machine however you want to make your tools accessible to you quickly. Like we said, this is like a little Harbor Freight magnet tray that we hollowed out to fit the width of the bobbins. We have these little magnetic holders.
These held on an old light that was underneath here, so this literally just held the wires. It just
Gotcha.
got little slots in it.
Yeah, so we have our needles there for quick needle changing. We have a little magnetic guide that we printed out to remind us what needle goes with what thread and what your range is. So you're like, okay, if I'm going through really heavy stuff, I need probably the largest needle with whatever size thread that I would like to work with. Bobbin winder, you got make sure you got your tray full of all the tools in here that you might need.
Built-in tool storage.
Yeah. You can buy a table for the Class 26. It's $119, I believe, if you wanted to turn the 26 into a flatbed. So that is an additional option that you can get. I believe if you buy, does this have because the 3 and the 4, you have the premium packages. Does the 26 have a premium?
No.
No, okay. So it's just the 3 and the 4 that have the premium packages that I do believe add the table in with the
table and a bunch of different
accessories and feet
plates and feet
yeah.
and all that. So
The 3s and the 4s have way more accessories in here
yes, yep.
than the 26 does. So I'm more scared now than I was. Don't be scared, Kevin. You'll be all right. You just gotta practice. It's just like tooling. It's gonna be rough when you start. And the more you do it, the more familiar you are with the machine, how it functions, what it likes, what it doesn't like. Unfortunately, like every machine seems to have some sort of kink that it just comes with.
And sometimes they work themselves out.
Or you just get familiar with them enough that you know how to work around it. If you're buying a used machine, know that it's going to come with many kinks that you're going to have to deal with. Make sure you're practicing good etiquette. Don't, if you pull too hard on the thread and there's a crunch that happens, stop sewing immediately, change out the needle.
Yeah.
Make sure you didn't get a burr on anything on the inside, everything on the inside of the bobbin situation, and all that needs to be smooth, everything's hunky-dory.
And don't accidentally buy round needles for leather.
Yeah, don't buy round needles.
Your tension will never work.
Unless you want to sew fabric, which you can sew. It needs to be pretty heavy fabric on these machines, but you can do it.
Denim or canvas or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, anything else?
I think that's about it.
Alrighty, folks. We will see you next week, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. Bye.